Hey everybody, it's Dina Rika with the Creativity Cave, and I have a beautiful card to share with you. This is a really special card that I have created for somebody on my team whose good friend just passed away. And if she's watching, I hope that, well, she watches a lot of my videos, so I hope she sees this, but I am going to send this to her. And it's been a long battle, I think. And you know, it got me thinking that it's kind of funny that I feel kind of connected to her, even though I have never met her. I don't know her very well, other than that we both love stamping, and she is just a really kind soul that I've met through doing this crazy thing that is my job. And so I think that's one of the things that really just touches my heart, that we can make these beautiful things, but then share them with people, and hopefully it touches their hearts too. So now that all of the mushy stuff is out of the way, I want to show you how I made this card, because it's actually pretty easy. You can see there's some watercoloring. Of course, there's Wink of Stella, and a lot of fun little tips and tricks to this one. So I'm going to grab my paper here. And I am using, this is a color combination that is so not my normal wheelhouse of colors, but it is really perfect for this card, especially the mood. And I'm using a stamp set that actually, this is kind of funny. So a friend of mine posted a card somewhere recently. I don't even remember where it was, like if I saw it on Facebook or if I saw it, I don't remember where I saw it, but anyway, it's the stamp You've Got This, and I've always loved this flower. I think this is a peony, but if you have watched any of my videos, you know that I have no clue. I love this flower though. It's so pretty, and I haven't used this set in a while, so I wanted to pull it out. So here we go. And then I have kind of this crazy color combination. And again, this is a post for a color challenge, and these are the colors that I came up with. And I probably could get rid of Perfect Plum if I really wanted to out of here, but again, these are just not my normal colors, but I like that I'm kind of getting out of my usual color zone. In fact, I've had a little problem, I'm not afraid to admit it, right lately, with Pink Pirouette, Peekaboo Peach, and Flirty Flamingo. All good colors, but I like need to put them away and back off. So this is a great way to get out of that color funk. All right, and it even uses mint macaron, which I don't like. I don't like that color, but it totally works for this. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to stamp my flower in basic gray, which is an archival ink, which means that when I go to watercolor it, it's not going to smear, which is important for watercoloring. So I'm just going to stamp this kind of a little bit at an angle right in here, like so. And I want to give it a good pressing. Ugh. It helps if you make the sounds. See, look how nice that came out. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is actually use this. This is a framelit. This is the seasonal frame Thinlit that is actually on the clearance rack. This was in a holiday catalog not this last year, but a year ago. And so I don't know if that is necessarily 2 years ago. It's more like a year and a half, but it's on the clearance rack. So it's a great special right now. I'm sure it's at least half off. I highly recommend it. And by the way, that brings me to the point that all of the supplies I'm using are going to be in the description of this video to the blog post link that I have. So make sure you check them out, because I know you're going to want to make this card. It's so pretty, and you can use it for so many occasions. Obviously, sympathy is what I've chosen for today, but I think you throw any sentiment in here and it's the perfect, beautiful, touching card for someone special. All right, so I'm going to use my basic gray marker to draw the frame in. So what I recommend is going from corner to corner and not trying to go any further. That way your pen will make, like one line and then another line, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to draw this in, and I have it centered down on my card stock, which PS, I didn't mention this before, but this is indeed watercolor paper. Now, one of the things about this is the marker is not archival, meaning it will smear, but that's okay. Now I'm also leaving a gap between here, and I'm not going across the stem, I'm leaving the gap. Okay, so like that. Okay, so there is my frame, and I just love the look of framing your image. It's really pretty and fancy. Okay, now let me continue on with the coloring portion of today. So I'm going to open up my ink pads, and you can see I've got ink kind of in the background of each of these. If you don't have any ink, just squeeze the lid of the ink to the pad, and you will get that ink in there. I believe I've got plenty in here. Okay. And again, all the supplies and everything, including the dimensions for all the stuff that I'm doing, are on my blog. All right, now let me show you the coloring because it's really fairly easy. I'm going to grab a different aqua painter because this one's about empty. Oh, this is the crappy one here. So I have this brand new aqua painter, which as you can see is really nice. But the bristles on my old aqua painter aren't as nice, and I kind of want them to be nice for this one. But because there's more water in the other tube, I'm switching tubes. I'm a very practical stamper, can you tell? Okay, so to pick this up, and by the way, whenever I watercolor, I like to have a little rag next to me. This is a burp rag from when my kids were little. It helps clean the water or the color out of your brush. So I like having that handy. All right, so to start with this, first of all, I'm going to do a little, just what I call a wash of wet across here. And then that is just going to kind of help the colors blend. And then I'm going to start with kind of this lighter color, which is Perfect Plum. This is actually kind of the lightest of the colors we're using. And I'm just kind of going over everything just to get a little bit of color down. And then what I'm going to do is come back and add a little bit of this Rich Razzleberry. Now in the color challenge I'm actually doing this card for, Rich Razzleberry was not in there, but I needed a warmer color to bring life to this flower. I didn't want it to be completely drab. So that's kind of why I chose that. Then what I'm going to do is add in some of the Elegant Eggplant. Now here's where I want to do some real shading. You can see so far right now I just kind of have a sort of a mottled background. It's not completely solid or anything. But now I'm going to really put in some shading. And what I want is for the base of each petal to be dark, which would make the tip of each petal lighter. And I've got a ton of water coming out of here for some reason. That'll teach me for messing with my aqua painters, won't it? Okay, so again, the base of each petal. Why is tons of water coming out of here? But here's the beauty in working with watercolor paper is I can pull, do you see that? I'm pulling off color, which is why I love watercolor paper. I'm actually literally pulling out some of the color. Okay, so I think I've got my water a little better under control. Yes. Okay. So I want it darkest at the base of each petal and then getting lighter as you go up the petal. Now, if you have too much water, what happens is the blending kind of just ends up getting everything to be kind of similar in color, and you don't really want that. You want some lighter areas and darker areas. And I never have claimed to be an expert in shading or art or any of that kind of thing, but I do know basic concepts of shading, and they're so important and useful when you're watercoloring. So even if you aren't a watercolor expert or anything like that, you can still watercolor like a professional, even without all of that knowledge. Okay, and here I'm still kind of having some water control problems. Maybe I should have stuck with my old aqua painter. But the beauty is I can move this color around and kind of do with it as I wish, which I love. So we're going to resurrect this flower. Do you see how I'm pulling that color back? And that also is kind of great about layering colors, is if you take some off, there's still some other color underneath there that you can mess around with, which is great. Okay, and again, I just want some darker lighter, darker, lighter, darker. So darker towards the base and then lighter as we go up. And even if you have, like, I actually have still a couple spots on here that are white, that is okay. It's kind of fun to have that in your work, so don't worry about it. And I really see this kind of blended out a little too much, so I'm going to put just that real dark layer right underneath there and just kind of blend it all in. And then I think I'm going to add a little bit of, there we go, that's better. Add a little bit more of the rich raspberry to kind of richen this up. Okay, so when you're happy with it, and the other thing too is you never get the same exact results twice. I can totally attest to that. Oh, I also want to get the center of my flower in that really dark elegant eggplant. So let me add that in here quick. And then I'm going to bring back my sample. I kind of purposely pulled it out of the frame so you could see what I was doing. I also want to color though my stem. And again, here I want the underside to be a little darker and the top of each leaf to be a little darker. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to just make sure the top side is light and then really add a little extra color with my mint to the quote bottom side of the leaf. And sometimes you kind of have to make an arbitrary decision of what constitutes the top and bottom of this. So you can kind of have that straight in your head, but there we go. I think that's pretty good. Now I also noticed this needs a little more color. There we go. Okay. And just a touch of that. Perfect. Oh, it makes me so happy. So really nice, rich, beautiful color. Now I want to bring in my sample, and I'm wondering if you can see the difference between these two, because there is a difference besides just the coloring. Obviously I've added Wink Estella up here, but the other difference is the background. Do you guys see this? So that is actually the gray smoky slate color that I've watercolored in the background. And that really kind of makes your images pop. And let me show you some tips. And I'm actually going to change a little bit from my sample and I'll show you the difference. But I'm going to close these before an incident occurs. Okay. So first of all, I'm using my smoky slate, which is a nice light shade of gray. But if you have too much ink on your cardstock or on your aqua painter, it can get darker than you might want. So I'm going to call everything on this side the underside and everything on this side the upper side. So I want the upper side to be a little lighter and the underside to be a little darker. So you can see it's really, really light color that I'm putting on here. And I'm also being careful because I don't want that color to bleed from my flower. I don't want any of that purple coming in. So I'm being careful. And then I'm also kind of being careful of the line I drew because, like I mentioned when I was drawing it, it is not color fast, meaning it will bleed when it touches water. So I'm being careful to go real close to the edge, but not all the way in it. Now on this side, because it's the underside, I want to go a little darker with my color. Now that might be a little dark, but I can kind of bring it out. And when I do that, it really highlights the underside and makes your image totally pop. And then again, you can see I'm totally blending out, but I'm just highlighting the underneath of each of these and then getting lighter out from that spot. Okay, so can you see how much the image pops? I think it really does make kind of a big difference. But it's really important to blend that color all the way out so that you don't get like blotchy spots or when it dries, sometimes if you see like a really light spot and you'll be like, ooh, that's bad. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now this is a very subtle effect, but I think it is kind of cool to do. And I'm just going to add just a touch more color to the underside of this. Now, if you look at like bona fide watercolor artists, they totally do this kind of stuff. The reason I know this is because years and years ago, like 17, 18 years ago, well, at least 18 years ago, because I think well, maybe I was just barely a demonstrator at this point. I did take a watercolor class from a local artist who's like a real watercolor artist, but the class was actually for stampers, and I learned a lot about it. Isn't that cool? I like how this turned out. So pretty. Okay, now as we're letting this dry just a little bit, I want to show you another thing that I did. So if we come back to our card here, you can see the background has this gorgeous texture, and that texture is made from this same stamp set. So I'm just going to pop my flower off here, and that is this stamp image. Okay, so I'm going to ink this up in my smoky slate, and I'm going to stamp on my smoky slate cardstock. So this is my card base, but it is really, you really get an impressive look when you build up that texture. So of course we're going to layer it on a couple pieces of cardstock like so. But can you see the difference between this background and that background? Isn't this one way better? Oh my gosh, I love the look. So to do that, I'm just going to stamp this like so on here. And if I overlap a little bit, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. In fact, it just kind of adds to the texture look. And how awesome is this? And I know what you're saying right now. Why don't I have this stamp? And you are correct. You need it. You should totally order it. You should order it right away. In fact, if you order it right now, till the end of this week, Friday, you get a free item with every $50 you spend. And since you're going to need this framelit too, I mean, you may as well just go crazy. So, all right. Now this is about dry. I'm going to heat it with my heat tool just to be sure. The reason is I'm going to stamp on here, and if it's at all wet, the stamping will smear, and we do not want that. I think that helped. I'm going to stamp the With Sympathy in my Elegant Eggplant just because it's so pretty. It brings out that rich color. Got to make sure that's oriented correctly. Here it is. With Sympathy. So pretty. Isn't it gorgeous? I really like it. Can you tell? Okay, now I know this took a while to dry. Sometimes I turn over my paper and that helps flatten it out a bit. Okay, so I am going to adhere this to my Elegant Eggplant layer, and I want to just make sure that it is totally and completely stuck on there. So that's why I put kind of a lot of adhesive down. Okay, and I'll just, sometimes I turn things over to make sure they're adhered just so that I don't accidentally smear things. I've learned that trick over the years, although I don't always practice it. Okay, and then actually when I was making this, I was like, ooh, I should have put a little bit more. I don't normally put this many dimensionals on. In fact, I don't like doing that, but I noticed I had a dip in my first card, so that's why I'm doing it. Okay, so we'll layer that layer up. And because this is a special and a fancy card, we're putting extra layers, you know. Oh, so pretty. I just love this one. And it's so fun to play with the color combinations. You know, like I said, these are not really my favorite colors to color with, but I think it turned out gorgeous. And I think it sets exactly the right tone for the card. Now, the last thing that I need to do after I've put all of this together is, of course, accent it with my Wink of Stella. So I'm using my clear, and I'm just scribbling around, being careful to know though that Wink of Stella can totally bleed, so you can get, and you know, I think this is my one that's almost out. Let me see. I just squeezed it, which I know I'm not necessarily supposed to do, but I don't care. And this is not the good one. Here we go. Sorry. Oh, much better. So we'll just blend this out a little. Going a little crazy here. I didn't quite want this much Wink of Stella, but I'm getting it, so okay, this is a little better. Like I said, my other one was just about out. That's a lot of shimmer, but it's a special card, so a special amount of shimmer. All right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this card, and I hope I shared some great tips for you that you will be able to use in the future for watercoloring. I love to watercolor, and I encourage you to do the same. Just practice and play. It's so fun and relaxing to do. Thank you so much for joining me. Take a look at my blog, and you'll see all the photos of this as well as links to my online store. And I always appreciate your business. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.